Welcome back, guys. This is Gaming with Alston, and today we're on episode 83 of Pyramid City. What we're gonna do this episode? Let's continue on. And sometime in the future, I might think about joining Uzoma Obalore. And consuming carbs is actually good for you. How? Carbs have water retention properties. Carbohydrates allow for water retention. If your disdain towards bitter-tasting foods carries on to adulthood, you might actually have to blame your genetics on that one. You might have to blame your genetics. That is because, back in the Stone Age, bitter meant poisonous. Bitter meant poisonous. If you want to pack on muscle, not only you need a lot of protein, but also a lot of carbs. I've been vegan for a while. almost 8 months. Now, more like a little over 7.5 months. One thing businesses are trying to go for is low risk, high reward. In bodybuilding, sometimes you literally have to sign your life away just to pack on muscle. And right now, I'm bulking up. The reason I'm doing weekly weigh-ins is to make sure I'm not gaining weight too quickly. I'm doing this to make sure I'm not gaining weight too quickly. I'm doing this to make sure I'm not gaining weight too quickly. Bodybuilding is going... Like, the sport of bodybuilding is going back to its roots. Instead of the Palumbo gut. Instead of that Palumbo gut, it's actually going back to its roots. Kind of like how heavy metal's going back to its roots. With Judas Priest's album called Firepower. And then my Futuristic Mansion series, which will become Futuristic City, I might think about creating a massive flying yacht. When it gets roller coaster elements, a batwing is a dive loop followed directly by an Immelmann loop. Except the dive loop and the Immelmann are mirror image of one another. But a Cobra roll, on the other hand, is an Immelmann followed by a dive loop. Which the Immelmann and dive loop are still mirror image of one another. Kind of like the Batwing. Sometime in the future, I might think about taking a trip to Florida again, eventually. But if I'm gonna go to SeaWorld, I'm not gonna watch the orca shows. I get that most of us find that entertaining, but the orcas don't find it entertaining. So if you're gonna go to SeaWorld, don't watch the orca shows. Just don't watch the orca show. Well, I look like in the future. Imagine if I was competing in strongman with Zydrunas Savickas. My belly was a lot bigger than his. That'd be pretty funny. Because strongman competitions are basically a bunch of fat guys competing over who can lift the most amount of weight. It's basically a bunch of fat guys competing over who can lift the heaviest. That's what strongman competitions are. Basically a bunch of fat guys competing over who can lift the heaviest. They can't afford to be lean. They need to be fat. Imagine if I was at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Disneyland with Brian Shaw. AKA Big Brian. There's this one point in which Eddie Hall looked extremely pregnant. Imagine if I was at Six Flags with Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, and Robert Oberst. One of the questions that someone asked Brian Shaw was, why is Eddie so fat? That was the first of the fat questions on Eddie Hall. Well, like that was about Eddie Hall, that someone asked Brian. That was the first of the questions. Another one is, whose belly is bigger? Your of Eddie Hall. In fact, imagine what it would be like if I was at Six Flags with half Thor. Or other theme parks with half Thor. Yes, you know, the mountain from Game of Thrones. Yeah, that guy. Big Brian. Eddie Hall has a very thick waist. In that cover for the video Who's Got a Bigger Belly, Brian versus Eddie. It might have been Brian that photoshopped Eddie's head on one of the fat guys. And that's actually pretty funny. With Eddie Hall, he uses a CPAP machine to help him sleep in his documentary. Eddie Hall's determined to try to outcompete everyone in the strongest man in the world. The one who started the steroid usage in bodybuilding is Arnold Schwarzenegger, aka the Terminator, or the Governator, because he wasn't just a Terminator, he was also the governor of California. Which is how the nickname the Governator came to be. For Arnold Schwarzenegger. Another nickname I'd call Arnold would be the steroid politician. Because he was shooting up steroids when he was younger. When he was in his bodybuilding career. Just so he could outcompete Lou Ferrigno. If it wasn't for steroids, Ferrigno would have defeated Arnold in bodybuilding. He was the original. Ferrigno was the original Hulk. At like 6'5", he was the Hulk. Palumbo guts are coming to an end. I'm going back to the V-shaped taper. The V-taper. That bodybuilding originally was. Because bodybuilding's about having a tiny waist and a big chest. Maybe big hips, too, for a guy. That's what bodybuilding's all about. It's not about how big you can get, even in your belly. It's about that V taper, or that hourglass taper. It's about that V taper or hourglass taper. It's a good thing bodybuilding's going back to its roots now. Mike O'Hearn is definitely not natty. One of the things I did to troll people on the internet was spread rumors about a Beavis and Butthead reboot. Live-action reboot of Beavis and Butthead. In which the pilot episode is Beavis and Butthead Goes to Jail. I was doing that just to be funny. I was doing it just to be funny. There are those people out there who lie about being natty just to troll people, like Cholsoon. My neck's only gonna keep getting bigger. You know what that means? Look at this, throw to ground! Every time I do it makes me laugh! Anyways, this should be it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video, or dislike if you disliked it, subscribe for more. Share this with your friends on social media. I encourage you to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for more content like this. As always, stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching, and as always, tschüss.